Good evening, afternoon. You are listening to Ouch, My 30s. The podcast talking about the decade that no one prepared us for. Been a little while since we've chatted. I think the last time we spoke, I didn't post that episode because I recorded it on my MacBook and the sound was shitty by accident. But let's see. Let me see if I can quickly recap the end of my road trip. Got to Charlotte, North Carolina, saw my stepbrother, we laughed. He showed me his AR-15 and like assault shotgun. He works in the correctional business. Although, that doesn't sound like a real job, that sounds like a fucking superhero. That's like a euphemism for being a vigilante. He works in the correction industry. But no, he works with like juvenile delinquents or whatever. Actually, not even... The point is, I went to see my stepbrother. Then I saw my stepfather. Who I've not seen in a very long time. And,
Derek, my stepdad, he talks like this. He's a 6'4", strong black man. But he has a high-ass voice.
And weirdly, over the years, I've learned to appreciate him and love him. I hated him. Well, I didn't hate him. I just didn't like him that much when I was growing up. Because he was a hard ass. He was a corrections officer and a drill sergeant in the Army. Which means he was a delight. And, being like a precocious 16-year-old going to private school, dealing with my sort of traditional stepfather. We didn't mesh all the time. But over the years, I've really learned to appreciate the guy. And, he kept me and my mom safe. Once one of my mom's drunk ex-boyfriends showed up at the house while my stepfather was there, earlier on in their relationship, and my stepfather's and my mom's relationship. And, I was like 11 years old. I was like fast asleep, wrapped in my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle blankets. And I hear all this like fighting and arguing in the hallway outside my bedroom and all this crashing, all this stuff falling to the ground. And they come, my stepfather and my mom's drunk ex-boyfriend, they come crashing through my bedroom door. And I'm startled awake out of my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle blankets. And I look up and my stepfather draws his service weapon, a .38 stub-nose pistol, and aims it directly at my mom's drunk ex-boyfriend's head. And he pulls the hammer back, and I remember looking up at him in that moment and saying to myself, he's wearing a fanny pack. It was 1994, so he had on purple jeans, a fanny pack, and one of those old Top Dog t-shirts that was just like, just plain mean without my coffee. Arr! And then he pulled the trigger and blew his head off. No, just kidding. He didn't pull the trigger. But he should have, because my mom's drunk ex-boyfriend was a real piece of shit, like many of the men that she associates herself with. But all that aside, me and Derek caught up, and I told him about the situation with my dad, and he had a lot to say about it, for sure. He hasn't spoken to my mom in 10 years or whatever, and I doubt they'll ever speak again. But the one weird moment, there were two moments that Derek, in his older age now, he's an older man than when he was when I was a kid. And I told him my dad, my biological father, started screaming at me when he would remember the crab legs. I want some crab legs, B. He's like, my dad does not sound like Mr. T, but that's how he was handling himself. My dad, when he was yelling about me trying to like lock down, do a quarantine thing, he turned into Mr. T, and that's his fault. But I told my stepfather, Derek, that my dad yelled at me in my face and was like getting all kind of like, with me. And Derek goes, he yelled. And it was in that moment I was like, wow, this guy, after all these years, still fucking cares. Hasn't seen me in 10 years, but at one point I was a kid that he was responsible for looking after. And I kind of got choked up, just hearing my stepdad be, concerned that like my father, was behaving in a way that perhaps he should not have. So yeah, we caught up, we shot the shit. He had plenty more to say about the situation, but no need to air all dirty laundry. But as I was leaving, he said, so Duval, what's your plan? I said, I don't know, man. I just had to get out of the house. I had to get away from my mom and my dad, and that whole situation really did not feel good about it. So I just kind of put all my shit in my car, and I'm just kind of bopping around from hotel to hotel and stuff. And Derek looked at me and he said, you need a place to crash. I'll just open up the goddamn garage door. You come on in. He really does kind of sound like that. But the point is, like, when I was like 18 or something, or 17, I remember I crashed at their house, my stepdad and my mom's house, when they were living together, when I was too drunk to get to my house, which was nearby. So I just like let myself in and crash on the couch in the den. And Derek was getting up at 5 o'clock to go to his corrections job to go go down to the correctional facility that he worked at. And he saw me on the couch. He said, "My house ain't no motherfucking crash pad. Get your ass up." So that was 15 years ago or whatever. And now he offers me his home to sleep in. So it was weird. It was a nice, I don't know. It was sweet. It was full circle. And this is like a really tough, really highly wound up dude. But I think we all get softer in our old age. And it's just interesting because black men deal with a lot. And again, I'm not insensitive to my father. And this is not like my dad podcast. We're slowly getting out of that. But to black men have to shoulder a lot, and there's not a lot of recourse for black men to kind of deal with all this anger and frustration that they deal with. My father being on one side of it, being on the wrong side of the law, and my stepfather being on the other side of it, being a law enforcement individual, and my mom really wanting me to be a stand-up comedian for being romantically involved with both of them. One after the other. Yeah. So I don't know. It was good to see that side of the family, and it kind of gave me some grounding, because I don't know. I never thought that my step family would be the family that I kind of, I don't know, connected with. But yeah, I mean, your family is who you're raised with. Your family's not necessarily, those you share blood with. And again, if you're in my family and you're listening to this, calm the fuck down. Can I think out loud for a second here? I have no malice towards anyone in my family. I have sympathy for a lot of them, but that does not mean that you have to be close to family in order to love them. There are a lot of people that I care about, but I don't need to sit down to coffee with them every goddamn day. So that being the case, that was North Carolina. I then drove to Charleston, South Carolina, where they don't give a fuck about coronavirus, man. I got out my car and they're just like, "Why is that nigger wearing a mask?" And mind you, I'm wearing my Barber Sapper jacket with my Banana Republic slim fit traveler pant and my boat shoes, which means nothing. You're still a nigger to them. But yeah, I didn't party. I just kind of drove around Charleston, which is really beautiful. It's a fucking gorgeous city. But everyone just looks like Will Ferrell in Eastbound and Down. I could feel it in my plums. Ashley Schaefer. Yeah, anyway. So then I went to Myrtle Beach, which is the hoodest beach I've ever seen in my entire life. It's like corny, because the South with the hood is always like 10 years behind. So they're just like, they have the soundtrack of Bad Boys 2. Oh, down, 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 down. That Nelly song. I guess it's not a good good impression of that Nelly song. And Duval's illustrious rapping career. I'll leave that to my half-brother George. Shout out. Who was mad at me because I called them niggas and shit. It's fucking term of endearment, all right? You guys have been calling each other that, and me, that my entire life. I'm throwing it back at you. Well, you guys never called me that little nigga. So yeah, Myrtle Beach was just like the deepest hood. Everyone had fucking raised Cadillacs with like spinners and shit. And I got out of there with the quickness. Oh god. So I don't even know what the point of this is. So yeah, that was the end of the road trip. Reflections on the road trip. Everyone here is living in a fucking police state of fear, which, given the reality of the situation that we're in, makes sense. New York State, New York City, highly dense, highly populated regions where the spread of this infectious disease can spread a lot quicker. We've seen that. But at what point do we start to look at the data that is coming out and realize, and yes, this isn't like a anti-shutdown or lockdown quarantine thing. We needed to do that. But the paralyzing fear that I can tell is still ingrained in everyone and will be ingrained in everyone for a long time is the dissonance that we're seeing in these other states that are like, hey, look, we're not New York City. We don't have a lot of deaths or cases, and no one appears to be dying in the street at random. So we're going to get back to our lives because we have work to do and can't telecommute and rent a house in upstate New York while we telecommute for our 6-figure job in Manhattan. Which brings me to my point. Let me take a sip of my rosé. Hold on. I'm the most contradictory, hypocritical, bougie Negro on the planet. Let me tell you about gentrification and the affluent people. How much I hate them. Hold on. Let me sip my rosé. Busy in the front, short in the back. I fucked that up. Short in the front, long in the back. Busy, but not precocious. That's an old Dennis Miller joke. When he's talking about the International House of Pancakes. Okay. Yeah. I used to do a Dennis Miller impression. Talking about social justice warriors. Like if 80s Dennis Miller was still around. He'd do a little something like this. Revolutions in the air. I haven't seen liberal white people this worked up since John Brown raided the federal repository at Harper's Ferry preceding the events of the Civil War, okay? Do me a favor, Sarah, who just graduated from Bard College. Why don't you shitay back to Illinois, go back to your alt-right conspiratorial tinfoil hat-wearing parents, and convince them not to vote for Trump a second time before you realize that you are... Yeah, all right, that's gotten a little much there. Sojourner Truth, you are not, okay? And that was a Dennis Miller impression. Which brings me to my current point. So right now, I'm back in Kingston, New York. And there are a lot of Warby Parker, just below the nutsack shorts, Colby College crew t-shirt wearing, farmers market attendant, Audi driving, wheeling and dealing, son of a gun gentrifiers, have showed up to do it all over again. Now, gentrification in and of itself I fucking hate, but it's also an economic necessity of the system in which we live. You have money, you want to buy a house somewhere else, fine. This is entirely different, and this is the hypocrisy that I'm talking about. So those same people who either poo-pooed me for driving across the country and not observing mandatory travel, or not being socially distant, are like those dumb rednecks who are all gonna die because they're gonna go to a bar in South Carolina. Those stupid Trump rednecks. Those same people that say that are hopping in their fucking Audi with their lesbian girlfriend who pegs them and driving up to upstate New York to Airbnb a house for $6,200 a month while they ride out this pandemic, bringing with them whatever infectious disease that they do or do not know they have to bring to a smaller community that will entertain and acquiesce to their desires. It's fucking annoying, and for many reasons. Number one, they don't acknowledge anyone. I'm sitting in front of the coffee shop that I go to, owned by two very lovely people, Amanda and Anthony. Rough Draft, Barn Books. My books actually sold there, How to Manage Your Girlfriend's White Guilt. I'm sitting in front, and this fucking couple is like 4.5 feet in front of me, and they're just like looking through the window that's behind me, being like, oh wow, yeah, oh, I didn't know they had coffee up here. We should go inside. Oh, what do you think? Let's check the Yelp reviews first. And I look at them, and I go, you just escaped from New York? And the guy looks at me and then like looks away as if he just thinks he's not going to respond. And then I stare at his girlfriend, who's like, who then nervously laughs and says, "Oh, are we that obvious with our masks? Ha ha ha." Which number one is like, "Oh yeah, we don't wear masks up here because it's all free and easy." I was wearing a mask, and I was like, "No, there's just not a lot of new young people. It's a small community." Blah blah blah. Basically, I was just like, "Yeah, have fun." He's like, "Thanks, bro. Appreciate it." They're just so fucking condescending, and they come up here yelling in the middle of the street with their fucking earbuds. Earbuds? Yeah, the earbuds, having their fucking conference call, pushing their shitty, translucent, ugly as sin baby and their goddamn Ferrari baby carriage, in the middle of the street being like, "Yeah, $4,000 isn't going to be enough for the down payment, so let's just circle back and put a pin in that one, okay? Ciao." Yelling like it's fucking Bedford Avenue, and it's like, hey, guy, respect the new environment you just showed up in, okay? So again, these people are happy to go somewhere else where no one's going to see them disappear with their cloak of finance. It's an angry episode. I've been kind of pissed off. So it's like they're happy to wave their finger at Floridians who just want to go to a fucking beach or redneck contractors who just want to go back to work. But it's okay for them to leave the epicenter of the coronavirus in the United States and drive up the fucking Taconic State Parkway to medically gentrify a new area until New York City's safe enough for them to go back to. It's fucking hypocritical. They're pieces of shit. And I got these goddamn lesbian neighbors who just always are so goddamn theatrical about everything they fucking do. They go outside. Gay wife? Gay wife? Where's our adopted biracial child? I don't know, gay wife. Let's go find them. Oh, gay biracial adopted daughter, there you are. Where's our dog, named after a borough in Manhattan? Oh, we're so picturesque and fucking cliche. Oh, boy. All right. Well, I don't even know what this is about. Let's tie all this together here, Duval. So I was happy to see the United States of America during the coronavirus pandemic. The farther south you go, the less they care. Probably because there's a lot of cases down there, so to speak. Or not so to speak, I guess they are. But comparatively, when you consider population density, maybe it's just not as much of a concern for these people. And if they're all dead in a month, well, hey, you got me. But if they're not, maybe let's start to relax a little bit here. Because I think we're seeing the numbers that were associated with this disease when they first tried to sell it to us are not the reality that we're currently living in. So let's consider that. And family's fine, I guess. I realized I had more family than I realized. And I hope in time everybody can just be chill. But I need my own space to kind of figure out. I want to build my own family. I need to build my own family. Because I'm tired of dealing with the sins of my own family and their pathologies that cripple generation upon generation upon gender-fucking-ration. And rich white liberals, once again, are being hypocritical by leaving New York City in the midst of this pandemic to go to smaller hamlets that they can economically be insulated from the reality that everyone else here has to live in. And then have all their food delivered to them and live in their little microcosms of Manhattan that they've built for themselves until the government says it's safe enough for them. God, I sound super right-wing today. All right. Well, I had fun, guys. This has been, ouch my 30s. What did I do to myself? Oh, I had really bad heartburn after that drive. Whoo, I came back. I had bubble guts. I vomited. My throat was singed from the acid and shit. It was terrible. And I went to my doctor and they did what I really hoped they weren't going to do. He's like, all right, Prilosec, take the OTs, take the over-the-counter, take the Prilosec, which I hear ruins your gut biome or genome or whatever the fuck, and gives you osteoporosis over long-term use. Ouch my 30s. Here's what this podcast is really about. Slippery elm. If you have heartburn and your doctor, well, all right, I'm not a medical professional, but for me, I tried this slippery elm and it really fucking helped. Basically, it's a supplement that kind of coats your digestive tract with a gel type mucus, or it helps restore the mucous membranes that get rocked by the acidity in our body. So, hey, a little practical nugget for you guys. Slippery elm if you have heartburn. Potentially. I'm not a doctor. This isn't medical advice. And then my ear hurts because I tried to clear my nose really hard and I think I did something bad. But one problem at a time, guys. Hey, enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. God bless America. Fuck these rich white liberals who are going to destroy America before any fake KKK that doesn't really exist in any organized manner ever will. Thanks, guys.